Welcome to the Garage Heroes and Training Podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
It's me, Vicky.
It's me. It is me. Me.
Me.
We've got a guest.
Yeah, we do.
He I think I first bumped into him in the real world at Thompson,
Mm-hmm.
and then we raced with him at New Jersey, and then I think we raced with him again at New Jersey. And we have an upcoming karting professional series versus his team at Edison, New Jersey, as soon as we get off our butts and get over there. And he is potentially going to be joining our F1 Fantasy League this year. I'm guilting him into it by doing it on the podcast. And I don't know how to characterize his position within his team. We're going with Grand Uba of
Okay. All right.
of Waka Motorsports. We have Rich Russo. Welcome to the podcast, Rich.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Mr. Poobah.
You know what? I just want to say that Waka Motorsport, the name Waka Motorsports is probably one of my favorite team names.
Awesome.
It,
I'm
it
honored.
is. It is because it reminds me of Sesame Street when they used to go Waka Waka
Waka
Waka.
Fozzie Bear, of course. I get that a lot.
Fozzie Bear, Waka Waka.
Yeah, we get that a lot. We get asked if we were started because of Fozzie. Not quite, but I do appreciate the connection.
Yeah.
Well, question number two on the podcast is what's a Waka? So we might as well do that now.
Hmm.
Um, the short answer is it stands for we're always kidding around.
Oh,
Ah,
nice.
yeah, it's
It's
fine.
kind of lame when you say it out loud, but
That's
uh,
fine.
yeah.
Well, it's better
Waka.
than our friend Mental who insisted when you make our acronym GHiT, he insists on calling it GIT. I'm like it's
GHiT.
GHiT. He's
It's
like, what do you know? It's
GHiT.
it's GIT. I'm like,
It's GHiT. Stop it. Now you're just messing with us.
It gets a
yes.
little too sketchy.
Yeah, that's all right. He's from the South. He
Hmm.
doesn't know how to speak. Anyway, what got you into racing, sir?
Man, I have I've kind of watched racing since I was young. I watched it. My dad watched racing, got me into watching racing. The older I got, whenever I could get into like a go-kart, I would try. I've kind of dabbled in go-karting here and there. Nothing too professional, but I've always been into racing and watching, I guess mostly NASCAR growing up. And then at a certain point, big Jimmy Johnson fan. I'm not sure if you could tell from the livery.
Mm-hmm. A little bit.
At a certain point, I kind of faded away with NASCAR and got into like F1.
Hmm.
I kind of grew up.
Isn't that the progression?
Is that how it works?
I think
I mean,
so.
I watched some IMSA and whatever else I can get my hands on, but yeah, it's always kind of been around it and liked it.
So how did you decide to get started with our little slice of insanity in lemons?
I actually heard about lemons in like 2014 or 2015. I had like $2 to my name, and I was pretty sure it only occurred on the West Coast, so I didn't even think to really research.
Mm-hmm.
And as time went on, I started to learn a little bit more. I watched a video on Donut Media.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that they did in fact race on the East Coast, in fact, in Jersey, where I'm
Mm-hmm.
from. I started to compile information and look for a sucker or two willing to throw some money away. And it wasn't until probably COVID that I convinced both my dad and my buddy Justin
Mm-hmm.
to make the jump into this crazy world.
Indeed. Miss Vicky.
Wow.
Becoming
Yeah, I am. I am. I was just like pinging off of that a little bit. But what since you kind of started, you're relatively new coming in with
Yeah.
COVID and everything. Um, have you thought much about where you'd like to go with it?
Yes, and I'm trying my hardest to take baby steps.
Yeah.
I don't have I'm usually like a all-in type of person. The natural progression seems to be get the car situated and have some sort of success in lemons before, not even success, finish a weekend
Yeah.
before
So,
branching out.
We'll get to that soon.
so do you guys have like a steady like mechanic? Are you a mechanic or are you pretty
No.
much race experienced?
So neither Justin or I are mechanics. Um,
Mechanically inclined?
yeah, I mean we dabble. I've grown up kind of racing quarter mile stuff,
Hmm.
working on cars, mostly street cars. My old man, my dad, is the one who kind of helps us with all the car stuff, the actual turning wrenches and whatnot.
Hmm.
His
Um,
nickname being,
the mad scientist.
there you go.
Oh, okay.
He's a machinist, so he makes all sorts of crazy stuff, and
Oh,
that's kind
okay.
of the nickname. But
Does he join you on weekends or is he
Yeah.
still
yeah, he's there. He's kind of like the crew chief. I wouldn't say team principal, but maybe race engineer.
okay?
Any issues, anything that's wrong with the car, he's going to be able to diagnose it and figure out a fix.
Okay.
Has he gotten in yet?
Technically, yes.
Yes,
Um,
I remember.
on as I guess we'll get to on race
Yeah.
day, he's had some pretty bad luck.
He has. He's been bequeathed gifts. We'll go with
Yeah.
that.
Oh, oh, uh,
Foreshadowing.
okay. All right.
Foreshadowing.
Okay. Like I don't want to go too like I have a lot of
Yep.
questions for Waka.
Oh
So
no. We got you. We got you. Okay. So 5 years from now, Rich, what are you thinking? Any bucket list items you want to get knocked down? Any to-dos? Any tracks? Any cars?
Oh man.
Besides all of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of cars. I'd like to race one day at maybe Watkins Glen or Sebring.
Mm, okay.
Um, Also, Road Atlanta is on my list.
Mm,
oh, that's a good one.
I would love to
yes,
get down there.
Hmm.
yes.
Um, I would like to also grow my team with people I know, some friends, have a couple of cars, have more people involved. Um, maybe race outside of just Lemons, maybe in a few other series.
Mm, yeah,
Really trying to walk before we run, but without jumping the gun, where I'd like to see myself or the team in 5 years is something like that.
cool.
So I like to ask this question. I'm sure if you listen to the podcast, you hear it. What is your philosophy? What do you tell yourself when you're behind the wheel? Everybody has something that they tell each other stuff. Mine is I paid to be here too.
That's a very fair one, very reasonable.
Hmm.
Um, Mine is I'm usually trying to keep myself from going for full broke, like full on fastest lap time trial style.
Right.
I'm really trying to get the car to the next driver.
Hmm.
Um,
That's
we're
really
very
important.
yeah, we're very slow. It's only 100 horsepower. We're getting passed so far in Jersey and New Hampshire. We got passed by a lot of cars. Trying to keep a steady line, stay out of everybody's way. Just run clean laps. So I keep reminding myself, clean laps. Don't try and do too much. You don't have to be aggressive. That's
Hmm.
what I keep reminding myself.
You know what? Part of it is just making it to the end of the race.
Yeah,
You know,
That's part of it, but maybe
that's
not.
the hard part. Oh, is that foreshadowing?
Yes, foreshadowing.
Okay.
Well, let's put it this way: his races have ended. Anyway,
we've made it to the end.
yeah,
Our end.
they have ended. All
All
right.
right.
So, you keep denying us coming on the podcast. We had originally talked about you coming on for how do we set this thing up? How do we get started? You you had some dance moves and evaded us for a little bit. Then we guilted you into saying that you'd come on, and you were like, "Oh, let me get the rest of my team." And then there's some more dancing. It's like John Travolta in the '70s here. And now we finally talked you into coming on here, and we're thinking your phone is on.
I'm sorry. I got kids. I'm so sorry.
So,
So now we finally got you on here, and we decided that the topic for this podcast was going to be how starting up a team, some of the ups and some of the downs. Because I think you've had, yes,
yeah, that's
I believe you've had them both. So
definitely. I know a little bit about that now.
A little bit, a little bit. You've felt the love, and you felt the pain, and you felt the sadness, and you even had some great times out there. I think we'll find out. Um, so how did your team decide to start? Was it you and your dad, and then draft any like body but it was breathing nearby, or did you use a lasso? How'd you get started?
Originally, I had been thinking of doing this, I guess, by myself. I was trying to figure out how I would get it done. I knew ultimately if I showed up with a car, my old man, the mad scientist, would probably be guilted into helping me out.
Hmm.
But we do have a good time. I have a good time with him just working on cars anyway. So I knew worst case, without giving him too much info, I kind of had him on board.
It's
Um,
quality. Listen, honestly, it's a quality weekend with his son.
it is. It's father-son bonding time. We
That's
have good
right.
times working on the car anyway. Uh, from there, looking at the cost and price and everything, it's you want to have more than one person. So I was always prodding and dropping information to some of my friends, and ultimately I suckered in Justin, um, who was into racing, thought it would kind of sound cool and be a good idea, but I think he just needed the proper persuasion. Eventually convinced him to come on board,
How
and
much beer or how much money did you give him?
a
We
lot
have a
of
whole
favors, a lot of
we have a
favors.
whole drawer labeled persuasion, and it's filled with hammers. So how big is the hammer, I guess, is the second question.
There was a weekend where I had to detail his car at least, so
Oh,
there was some definite elbow grease that went into it.
now
Um,
the audience wants to know: were you in a required attire, so to speak, for this polishing of the car, or were you able to wear whatever you wanted?
no, actually, this one was though it was on camera on the channel on my YouTube channel. You don't really see much of me in it, so
Uh,
this one was PG.
Excellent. Well, speaking of the YouTube channel, definitely worth a look. We enjoy it every time you guys pop one up,
Thank you, I
and
appreciate that.
we'll get into that. So let's give the audience who may not know exactly what you guys are up to.
Your car is a
Yep.
It's a 1996 Honda Civic CX. Runs the stock 1.6 liter Y7 non-VTEC. Um, we
Hello,
did put
D16 car out there.
we put the VTEC head on it, but we didn't have VTEC. We had issues. But that's about it. There's like literally no performance added into this car at all.
what
Uh,
engine is it?
the stock the D16 Y7.
Okay.
That's the one we have.
We have a Y8, but
Right?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
We have the Y8 head, but
Hmm.
we couldn't get the VTEC to work at New
Hmm.
Hampshire. After we needed that. The Y7 ran in Jersey. The Y8 ran in New Hampshire without VTEC, so it was basically Y7.
I
Mm.
had I literally had a friend say that the engine is so freaking durable that it run on salad dressing.
We may have data to support the contrary coming soon.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if that friend knows what he's talking about. No, no, no. I can vouch after the research I've done now with my videos. That motor is amazing and
Hmm.
can take a beating.
Yep.
And that's it. It definitely does take a beating.
And apparently your team gives out liberal beatings. Anyway,
We really put it through its paces, yeah.
yes, you do. So for those playing the home game, we've got a Civic 96 D16 engine. Livery, sir, I think is one of the strengths of your team. How did your livery come to be what it is?
Well, again, I was a big Jimmy Johnson fan.
Hmm.
Uh, I haven't really seen any of the Lowe's liveries out there. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen it. We wanted to do something kind of loud, kind of fun, color-wise, and we came up with a bunch of different options. And that one always kind of just stuck with me. I thought the blue and the silver would look cool riding around track.
Hmm.
It would stand out. And Justin actually came up with the slows idea. The car was going to be slow, and it was slows, so kind of just married itself perfectly.
One of the better looking liveries out there. It's a, it's
Thank
it's
you.
a it's a non-lemony livery, but yet it is a little
It,
lemony.
it looks like a stock car,
It does.
definitely
It
like a
does.
stock car livery.
I
I
guess non-lemony in terms of how it was done, not,
I
Yeah.
get
stylistically.
I get that the Lemons community is not like pro knockoff NASCAR livery.
No, they
Uh,
haven't. They haven't. There's a few.
Yeah, they don't
they
care.
do. No, it's more just
They're usually not done as well as yours.
oh, that was all spray paint and tape.
Wow.
These people don't know how to spray paint then, because
I guess I don't
I've
know.
seen I've seen some of them and they don't look like yours. So you're setting up your first car. We had some back and forth with some questions on the text chain. I don't know if it was in their Instagram or whatever, but how did
Yeah.
your safety stuff go?
So when we bought the car actually was sold to us under the pretense that really didn't have many issues. We bought it for like 800 bucks. And my plan was to get it Lemons spec'd and race in the New Jersey race
Mhm,
in 22.
mhm.
Uh, Basically, from the moment we left the garage to the moment we got it to our garage, the car just developed issues left and right. It wouldn't turn on. We ran into a bunch of issues. So we were kind of thinking we were going to have the car roll caged and fire suppression and all this stuff ready to go. And it just didn't work. Everything got pushed back. So when I went to my first race in Jersey and I ran into you,
Mhm.
that is where I started to pick your brain and understand kind of more about what was going to go into this, what was needed. Um, Besides the fact you had given us or me a chance to sit in your car, I took pictures of everything you guys did, relayed that back to the man
And said
Simon.
we're not doing any of that. See, this
No,
this
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 is
is
like the
not what we're
cleanest,
doing.
most well done car I'd seen. So it was a lot easier for us to try and get our car done. And that's kind of how we completed the building process was kind of using your car as an example.
I I apologize. Um,
No, again, your car, the cookie car is awesome.
so performance, I don't think you did much. You just kind of did the Lego thing with the engine.
Yeah, for the second race, New Jersey, it was 100% stock, whatever
Oh,
we
just
got.
as is. Okay.
Yeah.
But did you do anything braking wise or
Break in wise?
braking brakes?
Oh, besides replacing the pads and rotors that were warped, we did have a Integra upgrade or from the SI,
Nice.
the EP. We didn't get those put in yet because we ran into an issue with finding the proper disc size, which I guess comes off of a Mini
Mini
Cooper.
Cooper, non S.
Hmm.
We're still working that out. That should be ready in time this year, but no, the brakes were
There's a
stock.
guy I know who has
Don't
four
we
of them.
have like Integra knuckles too?
Yeah, we have four of them sitting on the shelf.
Yeah.
Sick.
If you bring your car to the track, I literally can probably rebuild it with what we have in the
I
trailer.
actually wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I overpack. Vicky yells at me.
You
Yeah.
know, I did remember we did upgrade the rear drums to disc.
Disc, yeah, I saw that.
Yes, that
Hmm.
Yep.
was the only brake upgrade we did, and steel cables,
Okay. Braided
brake
lines.
lines. Yeah.
Did you select a brake pad of choice yet, or are you still kind of
Um, on my quarter mile days or my street days, we always used Hawk,
hmm
but I think we're leaning towards uh red stuff going forward or green
Ray
stuff.
Bestis?
Um, can't think of the more specific brand. Uh,
Well, we'll talk to you. We'll talk you into something else that you're probably not thinking of.
okay. I'm open to suggestions.
No worries. So, so you had some racing experience in your past, and your dad is definitely mechanically skilled, and I've talked to him a few times, and some of the stuff that I've seen that's in your car that hopefully we'll have pictures of for this podcast are pretty impressive. What he's built, custom for you guys. How do you kind of? I'm not asking for you to quantify the cost or the time, but if you could give people a feeling for what it was like doing your first car, and in terms of a difficulty, it's not like an erector set when you were playing when you were a kid or when I was a kid,
No.
or but what was your impression? Because it's weird the first time.
So one of the selling points when I was trying to sell Justin and a few of my other friends on being co-owners was uh, we kind of have the blueprint. You need to do X, Y, and Z for safety. Shouldn't be too hard theoretically. Um, they come with kind of rough instructions. You can YouTube a lot of the stuff. However, the most daunting part to this whole build was the roll cage and the geometry.
Hmm.
And that actually that was the main reason why we didn't make Jersey and we missed Connecticut was
Hmm.
fine-tuning that roll cage, and it took so much longer than I had planned.
How do you
Um,
like your cage right now?
I like it. I think it's a little, I guess the thickness is good for safety. I think it's a little too thick, and it is a little tight. We could have probably pushed it out a touch, but at the end of the day, it's a Civic. There's not going to be a ton of room anyway.
You kept your panels in your door, right?
No, we got rid of the panels.
Okay.
They were plexiglass. We made like a custom plexiglass on the
Hmm.
door. We have cut doors now, so they're going
Okay.
to be completely hollowed out going forward. But we ran glass in the door, rolled
Yeah.
down with a plexi over it for New Jersey and New Hampshire.
Yeah. So your door bars are straight bars, if I remember right.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
straight.
Ours bend out into the open door.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference when you're luxurious.
We had seen a couple of examples. I was stuck between making 100% pure race car and then making something that could also potentially go to a car show and advertise the channel, the
Hmm.
YouTube channel.
Hmm.
And I'd need to store the car in places, so we would need to roll the windows up
Yep.
and have it like I guess able to be parked in a spot. So we stopped just short of making it full blown race car. It can still technically be parked in a parking lot and have the windows go up and down.
Yeah.
We were shown a very cool way to have the windows and still have your doors hollowed out by a friend of ours. So I cannot even begin to describe it in words, but when we get together at our next race, I'll show you exactly
It
what it
was
is.
very cool. I'm just like, I never thought about that.
I'm
Yes.
gonna need to utilize that in the future, I think.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, the one thing about your cage I'd like to see you guys do when you have a chance and get everything else wrapped up and solid is maybe change your door bars.
I would like that too. The door
Just
bars
to one size.
are
Just to one
tight,
side.
yeah,
Yeah.
on the driver's side. It does make things very tight, especially for Justin, who's a bit bigger, a bit
Hmm.
taller. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. He's big for a Civic.
Yeah, yeah, he's big for Civic.
He's just big in
So
general.
is he the one that you had to talk into racing?
I actually had talked he had shown some interest in racing, but I
Hmm.
think he was unsure of the financial commitment.
Hmm.
And it was actually Justin, myself, and two other friends. We were our coworkers. We all worked together.
Hmm.
We all agreed to do it. I kind of said I'd put the initial money up front,
Mhm.
and then Justin was just the next person in line to throw money in. And the other two guys got cold feet and they backed out. And
Mm.
we had gone too far to back out at that point. So it was just Justin, myself, and my dad.
Hmm.
It took us a while. More recently, I guess this past year, we did add another owner, Andrew,
Okay.
who's in New Hampshire. But we've had some guys kind of flirt with potentially being the fourth owner, and the financial commitment, less than the racing part. Everybody wants to go race and have fun, but the spending the money, the just paying for like oil. Nobody really wants to get committed to that.
Sometimes it takes a
Yeah,
while to find idiots.
Yeah.
there's a lot more to it than just sitting behind the wheel.
Yes. Yes. It's like a second job, keeping track of all
Hmm.
the stuff we got to do.
So how does the co-owning go, basically? I mean, I know that you talked about some of the issues. How do you divide all that up?
So we basically, Justin and I went 50-50. Whatever we have to pay for, we just pay, and then the other guy would have to kind of catch up or whatever. When
Hmm.
we added the third owner, Andrew, we have him kind of also catching up so we can all kind of be three of us are equal. We're going to have a discussion on how that works moving forward with anybody else coming in. I don't know if we necessarily need a fourth owner per se. If there is a time we get a fourth owner, I don't know if they're going to catch up to us because it'll be so far gone. But
You could rent
it's
the
kind of
seat.
just been equal spending over the three people.
You can rent the seats too. You don't have to have an owner.
been talked about too. Considering our history, I think we definitely need to vet the people that we would potentially rent seats to.
Oh, foreshadowing.
Yeah, I need to know more about this history that you guys keep foreshadowing.
It's coming. It's coming.
I know it's coming.
See now, Miss Vicky, if you watched the This Old Car episodes, you would know these things, but
Yeah,
no, but you
yeah.
don't
I
watch
liked it
anything that
this
we
old
make.
car.
Yes, but
Yeah.
Waka appeared there, and you have yet to watch it.
That's
Oh, I've
right.
watched all of them. I
Then
have.
you didn't see the one with Waka's car.
Oh, there was so many cars. I don't know.
Uh,
I don't remember what I did Friday.
anyway,
So
anyway, so so let's move on to something that may not have gone exactly according to our plan for you. How is your driver prep and experience plan going into your first race?
So, getting to go to New Jersey in 22 and meet you and the slow and mellow guys, it gave me some insight on how we should approach our first race.
Hmm.
We practiced pit stops in our driveway. We tried to
Awesome.
coordinate. We tried to plan out the the suit cooler. So we have a
Hmm.
cooler and a pump. We did. I made notes while I was in Jersey, and I tried checking everything off our list. When we got to the race, the most stressful part of the whole experience is tech, because we don't know if we're going to pass tech the first time.
Hmm.
The mad scientist is unsure about certain aspects of the cage or whatever. So that was kind of everything was a blur until we passed the tech.
Hmm.
And even then, we had to secure the battery, and there was something with the seatbelt anchor. But our prep going into our first race in 2023, which was New Jersey, was I guess it was all right. There's more stuff I want to do next time, but I had again taken a bunch of notes in 22 from you and the slow guys. So
Hmm.
we did. Again practiced whatever we could and then tried to hash out any issues we could foresee. One of our biggest issues was the radios,
Hmm.
which we
oh,
still
oh,
still haven't figured out.
you are singing to the choir
We
right
have a
now.
Yeah,
we have
that's
we have a radio episode
Yeah.
because Miss Vicky's about to complain about the radio when it's her helmet. But
Well,
anyway,
it's not only that, it's just that we really have a hard time just getting around to radio and data, and anything electrical is
yeah.
problematic.
I'm
But
seeing that also.
hopefully we fixed it
we have fixed it.
with the new
It's
helmet.
all good.
Yes, I know.
It's when you have a loose connection in your helmet. That's not your brain. Beyond
Hmm.
that, anyway.
That's right.
Loose connection, I could say.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So her speakers kept popping out. So
Hmm.
anyway, so let's get into the prep for your first race. You had your car, let's call it ready in quotes, right?
Yeah,
And how was it prepping because the car is only part of it, right?
right.
Everybody's like, oh, I got the car ready. I'm good. Then you realize that's not all.
No, there was a lot of learning involved. So I guess to start, the biggest blunder which we've learned from is at some point you have to sign up your drivers.
Yeah. Unless
And
you're really in good shape and just want to Iron Man it. Yeah.
right, that was on me. I said, yeah, I think I had signed us up. I was kind of unsure exactly what I did because everything was a blur the weeks and 2 months leading up to the race. And when it came time to check in and register the drivers, I had only registered one person, which was myself.
Honey, you're good.
So that was an issue. We had to pay a little bit extra, a lot extra to get those guys registered.
Mhm.
Coordinating food and storage for the race and like how we were going to set up our camp. That was also like a huge learning experience that we thought we had kind of figured out prior that it was kind of messy.
And you got lucky because if I remember right, that was a dry race, right?
Yes, it did not rain.
Yeah, because that adds all kinds of fun to it.
I really hope I don't experience that.
Mm.
But then we happened to stay on track on in the hotels in Jersey,
Hmm.
which we changed obviously for New Hampshire. That added to the cost and just learning your suit and what's good and what's not, how to wear things, what sizes you should get, what sizes you shouldn't.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you're large in certain areas. You should just get maybe a half size bigger.
Because you're going to be all crumpled up getting in that car.
Yeah.
And
Or diet. Yeah, there was a lot of learning
yeah,
involved.
yeah. When you're the big thing you got to realize is when you try on the race suit is most people try things on standing up, but the only thing you don't do in your race suit is stand up.
So we didn't get a chance to try them on. Justin had found a link, and it was
Oh,
an
that's not good.
OMP sale, and we just blindly ordered, thinking like, this is as good as it's gonna get. And then each of us was kind of the race weekend when trying out like the suit for the pit stop practice.
Hmm.
We were all kind of like, oh, uh-oh, we better starve ourselves for the next 3 days.
There's that. So, did you miss anything? Did you walk out of that weekend going, "Oh, we forgot to bring the, you know,
So the actually, when it came down to like tools and supplies, we kind of left that in the hands of the mad scientist, and he
hmm
brought half the garage.
I
Um,
like that philosophy."
He knew
and
what you needed.
we brought way more than we needed. That car, the Civic, could be taken apart with like a 10 millimeter socket and like one or two other wrenches
10,
or
12, 14s,
yeah, nothing
17. Yeah.
crazy.
nothing major.
He brought like pounds and pounds of tools. We had the air gun and the compressor, and we had a welder. We dialed that in a little better for New Hampshire, but
Hmm.
the first race, he had more supplies than we could have ever needed.
So, um, so going back to the stress you guys had going through tech, I don't remember if I went through tech with you. I think I did.
The first race in Jersey, you were kind of hanging out with us, yeah.
Yeah, just kind of we try to do the ambassador thing
It's
whenever.
like, ooh, Honda.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
You gotta realize when you're going through tech doesn't want you to fail.
No.
yeah.
And you've got 100 other cars that won't let you fail beyond your team.
Mm.
Like your first race, we have a community within the paddock. They will redo your cage with you for you.
I
You
see that.
it's it's a stressful thing going through tech the first time, but you're not doing it alone. I mean, and I kind of remember doing it with you to make sure you
Yeah,
knew you weren't alone.
yeah.
And we just want to have more people to go out there and race with. So,
I see it. We definitely kind of felt like we had someone, I wouldn't say holding our hand, but walking us through the rough process. There's just so many unknowns the first time, especially. We don't know
mhm.
if the hoses are okay or the fire suppression system is going to be sufficient, where the nozzles are, if those are in an
Yep.
okay area. Like you don't know. There's so many unknowns.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And you don't know who Dale is.
Oh, well, I learned right away.
Did you know it was his birthday when you went through?
I didn't. I only learned about it on the video recap, actually.
It's always Dale's birthday.
Every
Yeah,
day.
yeah. I see.
Every day is Dale's
It's
birthday.
always
Mhm. So, how did your first race go?
You can't wait anymore, can
Mm-mm.
you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I thought,
it's time. Go ahead.
all right. I wasn't sure if I cut it.
She's gonna burst.
I am.
so part of the gathering was, I guess, we had to determine the driver order. We went with myself to start. I felt, I guess, the most confident starting in the pack. Next was going to be Justin, the other co-owner, and then the third driver was going to be my dad, the mad scientist. Now
Mad
my
scientist.
myself and my dad, we've driven manual cars a long time.
Hmm.
I've owned more manual cars than I have automatics.
As you should.
And yeah, he's been driving for a long time as well and had a bunch of manual cars also. So driving stick shift isn't really a big deal for us. Justin hadn't driven stick in a long, long time, and even that, he had only driven a couple of days. So we tried to get some practice in beforehand, and actually a funny video on our channel. We got pulled over by the police in the Meadowlands, hooning a little bit, but the lineup was me, Justin, and then my dad. So to start, we got out. I did the first stint. I think we ran about an hour and 40 minutes.
That's a
I
lot.
didn't hit fuel cutoff or anything. The car was
That's
still doing okay on fuel, but the stock gauge was getting low, and I just kind of playing it safe. I kind of pitted a little early. We were doing all right the first stint.
You were beating Vicky.
Well, that's right. I think you had mentioned that. Um, the
I'm going to
car.
have to go car hunting, Honda hunting.
Yes, I'm sure you guys have upgraded since then. We were on also like a stock-ish suspension. It was terrible. There was no coilovers. It was very bouncy. You could hear it in the video. It's awful. Uh, I brought the car in to Justin. Um, we did the driver change as well as we could. It took like 10 minutes for our first hot pit. Uh, I think it went as well as we could do for never having done it before. Justin took it out on track, and I think his first lap, I think he might have gotten a little too fast into the octopus, and he spun it. And eventually, he came in. He self-reported his penalty. I don't even know if the judges noticed. He went back on track and he ran for a while, pretty uneventful.
Mhm.
He was a little rough with the shifting, but I think he was slowly kind of working his way through getting comfortable. And uh, at a certain point, he had to come into the pit. He had spun a second time, and our rearview mirror was just wobbling. So we brought the car in and we tried to fix the rearview mirror, and we kind of checked over the car real quick. And he went back on track, and he was starting to have issues. We didn't know it at the time, but I guess he had cut an oil line, oil return for the catch can,
Mhm.
and uh, we didn't notice it again in the pits.
Wow.
But he, when he went off track, he cut the line, and our oil pressure gauge was off to the side, unless you knew to look, which we probably hadn't gone over enough. We
Mhm.
weren't looking at the oil pressure gauge enough. Um, when he was on track, the car had actually kind of leaked out all its oil, and
Mm.
he had ended up bringing it back in, thinking there was something wrong with the car. We thought maybe it was an issue with the spark plugs. So we did the spark plugs. We turned the spark plugs around. We started it up, and we put my dad in the car, the mad scientist, and put him back on the track. And he didn't even complete a lap. It died halfway through.
Oh no.
We got the car back in. It would turn over, it would make a noise
Mhm.
and
Made
stop.
some noises. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had to try and assess what exactly had happened. And we had like 15, 20 people. Bill was there. People were coming
Yep.
over trying to figure out exactly what the issue was. And I forget the gentleman's name. He was able to spot it. The rod actually created a nice little hole in the
S-
block
Skylight. Yeah.
skylight, and
Oh no.
that actually assisted in getting the oil out even faster.
Mhm.
So yeah, we blew a hole in the block, and
Mhm.
that pretty much ended the weekend.
Oh no.
The mad scientist didn't get to run.
So
Justin
so
won
what
it
would
this
cause
time.
that? Not just
Uh,
going off, obviously.
I
They.
think we had just run it low on oil. The
Oh.
slice to the line
Oh, the
drained most
oil
of the oil
drain,
without us
yeah.
knowing. And then because it did make a small sound as he brought it in, but we weren't sure what it was. We thought the spark plug came loose. When he went
Hmm.
back out on track, he never even got up to speed really,
Mhm.
and that was it.
Yeah. That was a bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what did you end up doing with it? Did you end up having to pull the engine?
so
Oh
I
yeah, I
tried,
mean you have to.
yeah,
Oh, on the weekend though.
I tried to think about it very rationally.
I was
Uh,
trying to talk you into the irrational
you
stuff.
were, you were. We had kind of, without advertising, spent all of our remaining budget to get to the weekend.
Hmm.
Um, on extra oil, we bought 6 wheels and tires as opposed to 4 in case we had a flat. We kind of did go a little extra in terms of prep, but we had like nothing else really to spend on the car or the weekend. So we were looking at potentially getting a junkyard motor for 300 and swapping it back in.
Mhm.
And that was that we almost didn't have that luxury. I mean, we could have thrown 300 at it, but I just kind of wanted to regroup. I kind of felt like the car needed some changes for us to properly drive it
Mhm.
anymore, and a bit of a redesign. and ultimately we packed it up Sunday morning and went home.
Yep. So what did you learn that weekend?
To bring an extra motor to every race.
No,
It's
no.
not a bad plan. You did.
We
You
learned, I mean,
did.
we learned a ton. We learned to move oil feeder hoses from low on the car to as high as possible. Learned practicing your shifting needed to be a higher priority.
Hmm. It's
Um,
always the stuff you assume.
yeah, the little things. Yes, actually, literally having a second motor was a high priority for us after that.
Dan.
Still working on that, actually.
So what was the best part of that race? Or the best part of that weekend?
The in-car time, just driving. That was basically 2 years of purchase and build to finally get
Hmm.
on track was everything I had hoped it would be. From the fact the car is slow, but it felt fast while I was going down the stretch, getting cars blowing by me 20, 35 miles an hour faster. I was thrilled. I maybe never, besides the birth of my son, maybe never happier.
Your car wasn't slow. It was a solid middle.
A solid, you know what? I'll take that. I was passed by a lot of C cars.
Well,
Tell you what,
there were some
butts and
fast seat cars.
seats and clean laps are what's going to make it to the end of the race. That's what's going to make you at least place.
Yeah, that's something we're still working on.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Clean laps.
All right. So despite my best efforts to keep you back out there that weekend, what was the plan? What was your plan after that race?
Well, actually, Sunday night after we got the car home, we found a motor.
Yep,
Uh,
you texted me, I think.
yep, we went and bought the motor that week. I think we had paid for it Monday morning, and picked it up Wednesday or Thursday that week, and had it back to the garage. It was the D16 Y8, so it had the VTEC head.
Mm-hmm.
It was sitting in a car that was about to get case swapped. I got to see the motor run and everything. I felt really good about the motor. It had like 110,000 miles. We got it for like 300 or 400 bucks. So basically what I would have got a junkyard motor for. And we tried to get into the car basically as fast as we could.
Mm-hmm. So after you got your engine in and started it up and felt a little sigh of whew, what else did you have to do for their next race?
So it was kind of a sprint because we were trying to make Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And we also wanted to get suspension on the car because the suspension we had was a terrible aftermarket street suspension. It was awful. So we were trying to buy coilovers while still trying to get the motor in the car. We ran into issues with the wiring of the motor. Um, the motor, obviously, it's not the exact same. Mainly just the head is different, but a couple of sensors weren't lining up, and we couldn't
You
get the
had
motor.
you had an OBD1 to an OBD2 issue harness.
I think we still used the OBD2.
Uh-huh.
It came out of like a 97.
Hmm.
But
We had to get jumpers.
Yeah.
you guys had to splice over from OBD1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were told by a very knowledgeable Honda guy to just go to OBD1, bypass the two, go to an older ECU.
Hmm.
Um, the wiring is not my forte. Neither is the forte of the mad scientist.
Mm.
So we were kind of in no man's land. We were messaging people left and right. We just ran out of time to make Connecticut.
Hmm.
And I finally did get somebody from the Honda community up to the garage to look at it. It was the stupidest, like two things needed to be plugged in and like switched.
Hmm.
Uh, Unbelievable.
Was it just because you just had two, you said you had two like connectors that were wrong, switched?
Yeah, it was an airflow sensor or something. The intake manifolds are different in the Y8 and the Y7,
Yeah.
and something wasn't matching up. The mad scientist had to redo the throttle because the
Hmm.
throttle bodies are like in a different location.
Hmm.
He had customized and did all that, but there was something that wasn't lining up. I forget what exactly it was. It was just the stupidest, like stupid thing. I was kicking myself for weeks.
That's
But
okay.
we missed Connecticut, but our plan was to do New Jersey and Connecticut, 2 races, and then kind of see where we're at and make adjustments. But since we didn't get to do Connecticut, we decided to go to New Hampshire, which was even further. But a
It's on
few
the way
friends,
though. Connecticut's on the way to New Hampshire.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
a little further. So we scraped together. We got a hotel room. We kind of re-coordinated. Justin was busy that weekend. He had a prior engagement with his family, but Andrew, the newest owner, was on board. So it was still 3 drivers, but kind of a similar scenario. Andrew wasn't really too familiar with driving stick.
That's
Hmm.
foreshadowing.
For
Oh no.
Miss Vicky.
So the next race is at New Hampshire.
So what
And how
happened
much?
is, yeah, so without being like a crazy person, I convinced Andrew and Justin to buy another stick shift car
Okay.
so they could practice. They bought like an '09 Civic.
So they could just not track it, but like HPDE it or
Just driving around town, just learn how to slip the
just
clutch and
freaking learn how to
just
drive a
shift.
stick shift.
Yes. So Justin wasn't really going to go to New Hampshire, so it wasn't a priority for him to learn. I got Andrew in the car. We went through shifting. Um, I got him to a place in a few hours where I was like, "This is you're good to drive in the street. Go get some time," and he did. He drove it for a few days, got some time. Um, Going to New Hampshire, it wasn't really a thought that this might be an issue, the shifting. But what compounded it was, which we didn't know at the time, um, once we got it on track in New Hampshire, immediately we ran into an issue where the new transmission we got with the motor was popping out of third gear.
Mm,
So without having brought the first transmission with us, we didn't have any issues in testing. Right off the bat, I'm already behind the 8 ball. Now I'm going to ask Andrew, who isn't very versed in driving shift. He's not seasoned to make adjustments while you're shifting. It's in gear until you take it out of gear. Now he's got to make adjustments. The transmission's popping out on its own.
hmm.
So we kind of had some coaching that was going to go into the weekend, but it was a lot for anybody's first weekend. It was overwhelming, even for my second, which was only going to be my second stint. There was just a
New
lot of
Hampshire is not an
information.
easy track.
No, no, it's not. It's definitely not New Jersey.
Mm-mm.
Now, New Jersey is like longer and sweeping and a little higher speed. New Hampshire felt tight and confined, and I not as good. Like I couldn't
It
really
doesn't
see it as well.
flow.
Yeah,
The flow
flow.
is kind of rough, and there's a lot of touching.
I saw that actually. I wish my one
Yeah.
camera was working. I saw a ton of contact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there's a couple bottlenecks that you have to deal with, and then
Turn 1 and 2 before you get onto that back stretch is yeah, that's it's like suffocating.
it is. It really
Yeah.
is. So why was the transmission slipping? Besides, did you end up was it externally done or was it mechanically done?
So we made a makeshift. The guys from PAR, the slow and mellow team, Ethan and Justin, they had come over and kind of helped diagnose the fact that the motor just seemed to be rotating a bit, and that was probably causing our transmission to knock out of gear.
So your motor mounts were weak?
Our motor mounts were actually completely destroyed.
No.
We didn't
No.
learn that. We didn't learn that until we got back from New Hampshire.
Wow.
I'm not saying anything that applies to this story, but I know a guy who was at New Hampshire who had motor mounts. Yeah.
Well, we didn't know
He
the
didn't
motor
know
mounts were the
until they
issue.
left.
I wish we had done a little bit more in terms of kind of going over the car, but when the motor was rocking that much, it should have been like a clear sign, like obviously something's not connecting properly,
Mm.
but it just didn't. We actually, it's funny that there's a video I'm still editing. The mad scientist made a strut tower brace out of steel. We
Hmm.
ended up putting a strap from like the toe. the toe point on the bottom of the motor to the strut tower so it wouldn't move as much. We kind of like tried to motor mount it in itself. It was kind of very makeshift, but it didn't really help much.
No, no. So I guess the race went well.
So we were dealing with, again, we had decided, I guess, I'd go out first, Andrew would go out second, and then the mad scientist third. More
You,
so, I guess, because myself and Andrew were like paying official owners, even though the mad scientist has put in a bunch of his own money. I went out first. I did my stint. It was about an hour and 50 minutes, an hour and 45. I was dealing with the motor or the trans popping out of third a bunch, but I would just quickly shift it to fourth as if I was shifting it out of third. So I didn't deal with much of an issue. It wasn't obviously performance perfect, but I didn't have any issues where I'm grinding or over revving. I could even hear when the car had kicked it out of third. So it's a quick shift to fourth and there's no problem.
Mm.
When we did the driver swap to Andrew, with the lack of experience, I had tried to convey, listen, if you hear it or it kicks out of third, quick shift to fourth, because if you're just free revving, you're not moving. There's cars that are going to be on top of you. Just it's best to just go to fourth and get to the next corner. It was probably just so much information to give him. He opted to hold it in third as opposed to like never letting it out, which ended up working out to some degree for him. But for any time it popped out of third, he'd end up over revving the car a couple times, hitting the rev limiter.
Hmm.
Uh, and in an endurance race, the car really doesn't like touching the rev limiter.
Mm-mm.
So I had posted a video on our channel just for analysis, so we can kind of go over his race later. At a certain point, he had run about an hour, a little more than an hour. He had bounced it off the rev limiter a few times, and then it popped out of third gear without him realizing. And as he was going to floor it, I think it was out of that slow right hook to go up the hill. I think he had bounced it off enough that part of the rod went through the oil pan. We lost oil pressure pretty quick, and then the motor, I mean, it ran just long enough to seize itself, and that was it. Motor number two in the trash.
Mm.
Yeah.
technical word, zing.
No. Oh, wow. So, what went well that weekend? How about that?
What
What did
went
you learn?
the race prep? We were able to kind of more efficiently bring tools. We knew we didn't have to bring the whole garage. Everything that we needed, we used that weekend. Uh, the race coordination in terms of like hotel and shuttling back and forth was kind of also pretty efficient. Um, the tech inspection was pretty flawless. Even the practice when we went out for practice on Friday, didn't really have any issues besides diagnosing third gear was an issue. Um, that was about it. That's all that went well.
So,
Yeah.
did you miss anything coming into the race besides the motor mounts?
Coming in, I'm sure there was some things we missed. Nothing major I could think of now. I had taken the car on some practice runs the weeks leading up in like I wouldn't say race spec because we didn't use the wheels and tires. We were trying to conserve the tires, but I had taken it on some long runs up like Route 80 and tried to keep it in a higher RPM to make sure everything was okay and there were no oil leaks. That's actually something we ran into. We needed to use sealer, um,
Right.
like a Honda Bond
Honda Bond, yeah.
head.
On the bone.
We had a head gasket leak,
Hmm.
or we had a brand new head gasket, but it was still leaking oil, so we had to seal that up a little. Made that work on the fly.
So, what is your what does your off-season car prep look like? I mean, what do you guys do in the off season? for your
Um,
vehicle?
we got the car back home and immediately went looking for another motor.
Hmm.
This time it wasn't as easy. People wanted, weirdly enough, they wanted more money for this motor all of a sudden. I'm not sure how that happened, but we
There's
finally
people
it
who keep
was
breaking them. There's
yeah
less and less.
yeah they're finite. There's not a bunch of them.
They're like, I heard about this rich guy. This is like a second engine.
Yeah,
So
these
I
guys are
think we can make
taking
money off this guy.
they're taking numbers for me. I know.
The first one's free, right? And then they suck you in.
The first one was cheap, at least not free.
It's close.
Uh, looking for the motor took a while. After we got the motor, it was in rough shape. It was actually sitting outside in this guy's like backyard.
No.
Um, it had been over a tarp, but it was weathered. Uh,
Yeah.
we got it to the garage, and the mad scientist, by trade, is a machinist.
Okay. So,
He still has some tools. He
hmm,
was able to actually, after we took apart the head, he was able to deck the block, actually machine the intake and exhaust sides. We ended up replacing the pistons, the valves, and springs, because I mean, some of that needed work. But we kind of got the motor to where we think it should be in usable shape. The previous motors we had tested compression, they were always in like the 130s. The
Hmm.
first motor was in the 1 teens, but the second one was, I think, in the 130s, 140s. So we weren't even really on healthy motors. We're hoping to just have a motor that's more healthy, that if treated properly can last a race weekend and multiple race weekends. But working on this motor and getting that ready has kind of been our whole off season. Uh, we are probably 2 or 3 days from putting the motor in the car,
hmm,
and we're kind of finalizing a suspension to add.
hmm.
And I know this will probably be, I'll probably get some backlash here. Adding power steering. It seems to be nobody thinks we should add power steering. I'm a big proponent of power steering. I'm not sure we should have to work extra. I know you
I've
don't
driven
need
a
it.
car without power steering. It really is hard.
It's just a little more tiring. I know it takes a little power away, but
You
I
you were
also feel
driving a
like it gives
car.
you.
Sorry, Miss Vicky, you were driving a car that was fighting you, not without power steering.
Hmm.
There's a difference.
Oh,
Okay.
I kind of felt like it'd be a good addition. A little more precision, that we'd have to move the steering wheel less as opposed to, almost a half a turn to do the same turn. So probably adding power steering. We have the rack. We just need to get like the reservoir and one or two other little things.
What about the driver mods for 2024?
Um, to be determined. We have Justin and Andrew. They still have the practice car. We're trying to get them some more miles. Um, we do all work together, and work has been very busy, but we're trying to get them, again, just some mileage in the car when they're not at work.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm hopeful the shifting and transmission issues won't be prevalent going forward. Obviously, Justin needs a little more work in his shifting, so does Andrew. But once we get the motor in the car, we'll do some testing. I think the motor mount situation is taken care of. As long as this trans isn't popping out a third, that's all taken care of. We should be good to go.
Cool.
Hmm. So, highlight for you or the team from the weekend. What's your
Highlight
highlight?
New
of the
Hampshire.
weekend in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Um, that weekend I actually wouldn't say it was in the car. It was probably hanging out, prepping it with the PAR guys. The slow and mellow guys kind of came over and helped us. They actually let us borrow their backup suspension, which was like a K Sport coilover. Working with those guys and just kind of hanging out in the garage in New Hampshire was kind of my highlight. We didn't spend a lot of time practicing, or testing on Friday because the car was kind of hurt. And then I got one stint, but we really didn't have much time racing it on Saturday. So I guess the hangout time actually was kind of my highlight for that weekend.
Mm.
Hmm. So, how was it traveling so far for the first time?
Um, Stressful.
Yes, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it was stressful.
So
Going
where
up
were you
through
coming from,
North
roughly?
Jersey,
Okay.
Waze said it was going to take about 4 hours. I think because of the trailer, it took us with a stop at Chick-fil-A a little more than five. One in a
You,
row.
you got to do what you got to do.
Gotta do what you gotta do. Those chicken nuggies were calling my name.
We got some
Uh,
other places you can stop on the way that are quite good.
Need a list, actually. I think that makes some good content.
I can. There's a actually, I think it might be the podcast that comes out right before you, where Dominic with Dawson's going to be kind of special.
Awesome. It's stressful trailering a car.
Yeah.
For this race, we went with I guess a full trailer as opposed to like the dolly for New Jersey.
Hmm.
And on occasion, there's traffic around, people are flying around you. There's some of the roadways, especially in like Connecticut area, are like you're going under bridges and it's just tight.
Hmm.
So it was just stressful getting up there.
Mm. So, up there you spoke a little bit about some of the tracks. What are your thoughts about the track, New Hampshire versus New Jersey? We spoke a tiny bit about it.
I don't want to seem like a homer because I'm from Jersey, but I loved Jersey. Uh, we had taken
Thunderbolt.
we had actually taken the car out on the lightning track to try
Hmm.
and I guess test it out, see what worked and what didn't. Back in like May prior to the Thunderbolt, the Lemons race. But the Thunderbolt track in Jersey was awesome. I loved it. It's wide. It's like just open. It's free. With a little bit faster car, I think it'd even more fun. But I loved New Jersey. I thought the facilities were awesome. The paddock felt like roomy. I loved it. Versus New Hampshire, uh, New Hampshire's track is cool because you're on like the NASCAR part,
Hmm.
Hmm.
but then you're also not. You're off into the woods and in the bowl, and it's tight. It felt like you have no elbow room.
It feels like a small, it's a short track, isn't it?
Mm, a little
Would you
shorter.
Sort
say
It's
of.
not. It's
a
not
little shorter
short.
than Jersey?
A little shorter. So, Rich, would you like to be entertained by a first-time race at the New Hampshire Motorsports track story?
Of course.
Oh, so we're at New Hampshire, our first ever race, and
Captain's log supplemental.
So, Bill, guess what?
what
We did the Sentinel. We
we
did the
did,
Sentinel.
we did.
We
How did
we
you
were
like it?
ta You know what? We were talking about the Sentinel.
We have.
It was great. We understood watching how the Sentinel works,
Mhm.
but we finally got it into our car, and I got to tell you, that was really awesome. I was able to see every one of my mistakes.
We have hours of them.
We have hours of my mistakes,
That's right.
but we have hours of good stuff too, which is awesome. It actually showed us the speed. Did it show us where we were on track?
We were streaming it for
We were streaming it live.
we're boring billions of people across the world.
But it was pretty incredible. Plus, on it, you're able to put your insignia, your logos
Yep.
on your app also, and the clarity was amazing. It was really easy to put in,
It was
easier
easy.
than I thought it was.
I know you kept
So
making a big deal out of it. I'm like, it's really not that hard. It was
actually,
until we focused on it. It wasn't too bad. And then we got some help.
no,
It was pretty easy.
yeah, it was. It
Uh,
was pretty good.
You know what? I like the stream because some of the tracks we go to don't have great cell phone coverage, but it's got
Hmm.
a USB stick backup. So I
Hmm.
just uploaded the high quality video without the cellular interruption. So
Hmm.
if you watched us earlier and said, "Wow, they got from there to there really quickly," you can watch the real video and see that no, we didn't. It's just a cell phone went out.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. So the learning curve for me, obviously, I'm slightly techno Amish.
slightly.
What slightly when it comes to the wiring and stuff like that, but we get it in, and I love it. We were able to sit there right at the track and watch what we were doing in the car, and that
Yeah,
was amazing.
which was good because if you have a problem with your radio, you can
Hmm.
tell, if something is going on that you need to know about. Like
Hmm.
a couple times we've had cars come in and we didn't know they were broken. I know it's hard to imagine one of our cars being broken, but whatever. But you can watch the video, and even with the cell phone coverage we had at that particular event, it was like a 30-second delay, so it wasn't
Hmm.
bad. And you can compare multiple drivers because you have each of the stints are broken up. So we got to work on not only our driving, but if we wanted to, we could work on our pit stops and see exactly what we do. And there's some things that we need to talk about as a team. And it was pretty good. You know, like I said, it takes me, once we got the wiring hooked up for the power, I probably could go from an empty shell to a full up setup running Sentinel. I could probably do that in like 20 minutes. So you could literally install it in a car before a race. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And we got to see the driver and the front windshield. And if we want to, we can have three. We can see backwards. Or one of the guys we were going to work with at the upcoming event, he said, could you put a camera on the driver's eyes so we could see what they're looking at? I said, why, yes, I can. Haven't done it yet, but I'll figure it out. I've got time.
Well, I love it.
All right, very well. That sounds like I can buy another one then. Woo! We're watching the timing, and Miss Vicky pops out a 43-second lap. And we're all puzzled. We're like, how did she just like beat everybody else by like a minute?
Yeah.
I think this might have been like our third race ever.
It was our third race ever. Miss Vicky, would you care to enlighten Rich on how you're able to hit a 43-second lap at
Well, they didn't have the barrier up that went up to the uphill, so I just did the loop.
She went straight.
I went straight. I didn't go up the hill to go up into the bowl area.
So there's no barrier. Okay. I see.
Yeah. And there was no barrier there set up. So I just went straight. I'm like, I guess I'm supposed to go straight. I don't know what, because I didn't really see a track
coming
map.
down the hill at that point?
Okay. If they were, she was going to own them.
Well, no, because it wasn't it was a practice lap.
It was Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Friday practice. So
43 seconds. Well done.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So.
And that's when Jennifer learned how to drive a stick shift for the first time. We gave her 5 days and then put her in a car. Yeah. So
and
she kept getting stuck on the hill.
Because Delaware's flat. She knew how to drive a stick, but we never took into consideration that she had to go uphill. Yeah.
I can see that. Okay.
Whoopsie.
Yeah, we learned.
Awesome.
So how are you doing on spares now?
Well, the motor we blew at New Hampshire, since the rod exited via the oil pan, we're trying to reuse that block, the bottom end. There is a little bit of I wouldn't say damage. There's definitely a spot where the rod was knocking around inside the block, but it doesn't seem bad. I think we can save it. I think we're going to try and utilize that block. And we have like 3 Y8 heads. Y7 heads. One of them, which was used in Jersey, which was like cleaned out and done really well. That's going to be our top end. So in theory, we should be going to Jersey with another motor. We have one Y8 head and one Y7 head, so we'd have to probably swap ECUs, fiddle with the wiring a little bit, but we do have a backup engine now, or in theory, and we do have 2 transmissions, so we're going to try and bring both of those with us.
So where is your garage? I haven't seen the YouTube. I'm sorry, Bill is a YouTube all day, every day, but I'm here.
I'm right here.
I know. So, your garage situation, where is it? Is it independent garage? Is it somebody's house?
Yeah, it's actually my dad's house. About
nice.
30 minutes outside the George Washington Bridge.
Oh, okay. All right.
Kind of located around that area, George Washington Bridge area.
So you guys got a little bit of elbow room to work out over there, and
yeah, it's a very comfortable. It would be a comfortable 2-car garage, but he's got a bunch of his machinery there, so it's a very comfortable 1-car garage. Okay,
is it attached to the house?
Yep.
Oh, nice. You guys can run in there and
for the most part, you can keep it heated or cooled in the summer and winter. I mean, once the garage door is open, it's fair game. But
yeah,
we can kind of work on it whenever.
So, Rich, why were you so shy about New Hampshire? You're leaving out the most important, glorious aspect of the race.
Of New Hampshire?
Yes. You're being very shy. You don't want to brag. I know. It's okay. I'll set you up. How about this? So, Rich, how was it to have your car as a guest on the
That's right.
worldwide stage when it was on that soon to be sweeping the world TV show?
Actually, I had wished we got a chance to have you over there when it was more quiet. You guys had like an awesome setup with all these cars.
Hmm.
And then when you got to ours, everyone was doing all this work on the
Oh,
news when you got
Hmm.
to us.
Hmm.
And I was like, hey, keep it down. Bill is
Yeah,
doing our car. You're gonna ruin our audio.
they did, and they did quite
Right.
well. So your car, in spite of aerating two different engines on two straight races, was a guest on the This Old Car.
And I was honored. It was
I
awesome.
know, I
this
know.
old car.
That's right.
I had got to watch a couple of those live. They're great.
I know. Hopefully we're trying for syndication. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, yeah. So what does your 2024 look like?
Right now we are 100% go for Jersey, and we're 100% go for Connecticut. New Hampshire is kind of up in the air. We liked that track also. We kind of like to get back. I had kind of met Bill at Jersey in 22, and then really got to hang out with you guys in Connecticut at 22.
Hmm.
But we didn't get there in last year for Connecticut. I'd like to get to Connecticut. We had actually planned secretly we were going to try and make Pittsburgh this year, but that was before the motor issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So we ran out of time to do Pittsburgh. We still have too many things to kind of go over.
Well,
So Jersey, Connecticut, New Hampshire.
if you're into it, the week before Lemons, New Hampshire, there's a lucky dog race at Pit Race.
Really?
Yes. So
I'm still learning how like Lucky Dog and AER, I guess, work.
you're fine for a lucky dog.
Yeah, I wouldn't need any extra safety stuff.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Now, Lemons probably has the most stringent safety stuff
Yeah.
Okay.
because their clientele, they want to make sure they can handle everybody. So they're probably the
Mhm.
tightest.
Okay. Fair.
We're going to go to the Pit Race one. So if you wish to go.
I actually would really like to hit Pitt. A few people had mentioned it that
It's a
weekend.
nice track.
They said it was very nice.
It
It
is a
is.
nice track.
The
It's
one
kind
thing
of,
I had was if you're going in October, apparently it could ice over and snow.
oh, it can ice over in April. It doesn't matter. Pit can do anything.
Yeah,
It's
awesome.
amazing. Miss Vicky came in with like an inch and a half of snow on her car after one lap.
That's the year. Yeah, that was the year that they had all the weather in one weekend. It was nuts. And it got my ECU wet, so we had to dry the ECU out, and then we had to reseal it. Yeah, it was a mess.
That's fine.
They stopped the race at that point, and you get
No,
the track clean,
it was
or-
Friday when it snowed, so it was
Oh,
fine.
okay.
Yeah, it was just like you could see the weather rolling towards you, and every time it rolled towards you, it just dished out something else, whether it be ice, whether it be sideways snow, whether it just dump wet snow on you,
Or
you
sunny.
know, and or then it would be sunny. And then another squall would come with something. It was weird. It was such a weird weekend.
The next day, I
That
was
is-
wearing t-shirt and shorts.
It's
Fantastic.
not something I want to really have to worry about is like the weather at any of these tracks. We're really not seasoned with working on the car in bad weather.
Yeah.
Wow. If you want to go, that's just an option for you. So, any change in car drivers besides your engine?
At the moment, no. We're gonna have the lineup for this year is myself, Justin, Andrew, and the mad scientist.
Okay. So, what are your goals for the year? Besides getting the mad scientist in the car for more than one lap.
That's actually one of the main goals.
Okay, that's a good goal. I like that goal. I stand behind it. How about
I'd
this?
like to have him in the car, right?
If, and I'm not rooting against you, if something happens at the next race and he doesn't get in the car, he's getting in our car.
That would be awesome. And
He's getting out.
love to see it.
I don't care.
Okay.
If it takes two Hondas to get him out, we're going to get him out.
Awesome. The goals for this year for the Waka Motorsports Slows team. One, finish a race.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, not have to replace the motor after a race would be great. That's literally the only goal.
Fantastic. I
The race.
I think everybody would be quite happy, and we cannot wait to give you a high five at the parade at the end. So
I'll be elated if that happens.
That's right. Plan on who's ever driving. I'm telling you this now. Who's ever driving is going to get wet.
Is that right?
I am going to bury you guys in liquid. I don't know if it's going to be White Claw or water or whatever. If you got any flavors, let us know early because it's humming.
Deal.
Bring your windshield wipers.
We'll cherish the wet down.
Exactly. It's coming.
Awesome.
Any thank yous or shout outs that you'd like to get into?
Shout out to my wonderful wife for being a great wife.
That's a very smart shout out, sir.
That's an important one.
It is.
That's all I got.
All right. You know, you have the same number of sponsors that we do, so that's fine.
Yeah. That's about right.
I know. It's pretty funny when we get the whole, why are you letting people post about their business? I'm like, a business has income.
Potential sponsors. I'm ready to do whatever I can for a couple bucks. Let me know.
Really? So yeah, I think the only thing we've gotten is discount codes for anybody who listens. So, and they're in the podcast episode notes if you ever need them. Rich, want to make sure we get this right. Love your YouTube channel. It's found at
Waka Motorsports on YouTube. Yeah. WAKA Motorsports.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Such a great name.
Thank you.
It really is. I just want to go Waka Waka Waka.
We know. We've lost her at the Muppets again, Rich. There's nothing I can do about it. So, sir, we're going to at your next successful race, we're going to have you back on, and we will do a little bit of our Fast and Furious Storytime questions with you. And
absolutely, be a pleasure.
And hopefully, we will be host our go-karting festivities, which we've talked about for at least a year. And
definitely we'll coordinate that ASAP.
Exactly. And which team will have it on their YouTube channel? That would be not Garage Heroes. We
might be able to figure out how to get you guys some content that for that weekend too. Work on getting YouTube a little more expanded.
We could do that. It would be fun. Yeah. Sir, thank you for finally coming on.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
It was nice talking to you.
Yes,
my pleasure.